Thank you for your patience. We are going to call to order. We do have some things to report out. One moment while I pull up the numbers for the cases. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. The board approved by a unanimous vote of 5-0 the stipulated expulsion, case number 23/24-4. Also approved by a unanimous vote of 5-0 a stipulated expulsion, case number 23/24-6. We also need to report out the superintendent's evaluation was satisfactory. Dr. Gibson, do we have deletions or corrections to the agenda?
We just added one item that was already agendized, but we just added a document under item number, give me just a second. Thank you, Mr. Critchfield. Under item 14, communications, we added a letter that we received today from the California Department of Education acknowledging that we had submitted our budget that is currently qualified, and then it just kind of spells out what comes along with having a qualified budget. So we just added that to the agenda. That's it.
Okay, at this time, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the presentations and recognitions portion of our agenda, we have Amador High School baseball field dedication.
I'm going to ask those that are participating in the baseball field dedication to please come up to the microphone, our speaker, as well as Mr. Larson. Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Larson. Hold on, Des will get you turned on here. Give us just a second. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Members of the board, Superintendent Gibson and district staff, good evening and thank you for having us. This is a good day. Today we get to honor our coach, teacher, mentor, and friend, Dennis Larson. Dennis has always been a lover of statistics, so let me go over some of the numbers in Dennis's life with you. Dennis has always been a great family man and an example for the many boys he coached. Dennis has 3 beautiful daughters. Dennis has 8 attractive grandchildren and 9 adorable great-grandchildren. Dennis was married to one of the cutest and nicest women ever, his wife Sandy, for nearly 64 years. She was a great team mom, and Sandy was someone who took a multitude of high school boys, took a lot of garbage from them with a smile. Sadly, Sandy is no longer with us, but I know that she's here tonight in spirit. So now to baseball. Dennis coached from 1963 to 1996, 34 years. He was the head coach of Amador High School baseball for 33 years out of the 34. He coached 1 year at American River Junior College in Placerville as the infield coach. His record was 388 wins, 222 losses, and 8 ties. He was the coach for 22 Motherlode League championships or co-championships, including 1 run of 6 in a row. He coached 1 Division III section title team. His teams made the CIF playoffs 14 other times. He was responsible for developing approximately 82 first-team all-league players. 2 Amador High School players, John Vukovic and Steve Young, made it to the professional level in baseball. 17 players played at the college level, at a JC, state university, or university. Dennis was named coach or co-coach of the year at least 14 times by his coaching peers in the Motherlode League. Some of the league records weren't available, so that's what we could find. That was a lot of numbers. Every time I smell fresh grass, fresh cut grass, it brings back memories of our coach Dennis sacrificing for the team, battling his yearly allergies, and having to wear a mask on the field long before COVID required one. You really have to love baseball to put up with that every year. Dennis enjoyed using his past outstanding players as example for the way amateur baseball should be played. Guys like Battaglia, Wrinkle, Matic, Vukovic, Poggio, Baker, Oneto, Liskovich, Montebeller, Parker, LaBelle, Cooper, the Dahl brothers, Dean, Watts, Foyle, Ehlers, Moran, Conero, Ferdani, Veloder, and my older brother Mongo are all part of a legacy of one man, Dennis Larson. During my playing days, it was Carpenter, Brunson, Mummy, Leininger, Dahlman, White, and Hott. 4 out of 5 players of our starting infield made first team all-league thanks to Dennis's coaching, and we rewarded him with his only section championship. Go 1978. Thanks to Dennis's dedication, the quality of players kept developing at Amador. During Billy Baker's playing days, the names were Young, Thielen, Wallace, Peterson, Mummy, Gutenberg, Erosa, Dahlman, Toman, and LaBelle. Bake went on to continue the winning tradition and became Dennis's successor at head coach. No matter what the year or what the name is, every player has a Dennis Larson story. These are best presented over a couple beers during alumni gatherings and are always enjoyable. Dennis and I go back a ways. Other than coaching, he taught me how to drive. Today, I consider him my friend, and it is now my great honor to announce that from this day forward, it is our goal that the baseball field at the Amador High School campus will be named Dennis Larson Field, and with that comes induction into the Amador High School Baseball Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Dennis. We love you. Thank you.
So at this time, I would like the board please to make a motion and vote for the formal approval of the Amador baseball field forever being the Dennis Larson Field.
I would like to move that we dedicate the field to Mr. Dennis Larson, who I had the privilege of working with for a few years, and name the baseball field after him.
I will second.
The roll call vote. Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mr. Larson. Thank you for your dedication and your service to Amador County Unified and our students. I think it's very appropriate that it's this week as it's Teacher Appreciation Week as well. So thank you so much. Mr. Larson, if you and your family would like, at some point, you don't need to right now, you're welcome to stay. We have other celebrations. But before you leave, the lovely lady right here in the turquoise shirt, we would love to get some photos.
Our next presentation is from Child Development.
Hello, I will be sharing these challenge coin honorees on behalf of Miss Jenny DeWalt here because her voice is gone. When reflecting on who is deserving of a challenge coin, I think about the characteristics we strive for: fun, courage, authenticity, integrity, and relationships. Our challenge coin recipients all represent these characteristics and so much. Thank you for all that you do for students and the Child Development Department. Our first recipient is Jessica Vaughn. Jessica has built not just an amazing preschool program at Pioneer Elementary, but she demonstrates the characteristics we strive for every day. Jessica does an amazing job building relationships with her staff, the school, and families. Jessica understands how to combine learning and fun for her students, and she makes the process fun for adults too. Jessica has integrity to advocate for what she thinks is right for her students and for her staff. Jessica has the courage to try new things and stretch herself to build new experiences for her students. And authenticity. You always know what you will get with Jessica. Someone who deeply cares about her students and her community. Thank you for everything you do. Our second honoree for our preschool program is Tamron Hollingsworth. Authenticity and integrity are definitely descriptions of Miss Tamron. Tamron's positive and calm demeanor are reflective in the flow of her classroom, and her students take their cue from her. She is kind and compassionate with her students, families, and staff as she builds relationships. She is a great teacher, not just for students, but also the instructional aides she works with every day. Miss Tamron has the courage to advocate for what she thinks is right for her students and will go the extra mile to advocate, ask questions, and do what needs to be done for the betterment of her students and families. And fun. Tamron's class is fun. You know the students feel the same way when you see their smiling faces when they come onto the classroom and throughout the day. Thank you for everything that you do. Our third honoree for preschool is Miss Chloe Morris. Chloe had the uncommon opportunity to start her preschool instructional aid journey as a high school student volunteering in state preschool, and she did such a wonderful job that when a job became available after graduation, she got the job. And Chloe continues to do a wonderful job. All of Chloe's hard work and dedication demonstrates her integrity. The relationship she has built with fellow staff and students is very evident in her relaxed, positive, and happy approach to any task she is given throughout the day. Chloe shows courage and is always willing to help out with events such as celebrate our children or go the extra mile and attend offered training within child development or our community partners. Chloe definitely helps create an environment of fun for both students and staff. She is never afraid to be silly or communicate with the students on their level. These are invaluable skills that you cannot teach. Thank you for everything you do. Our second presentations go to the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program employees. Today I have the honor of presenting an award to two of our Expanded Learning Opportunity Program employees. These individuals truly embody the essence of care, support, and teamwork and our unwavering commitment to the well-being of our students here in Amador County. The first individual has consistently surpassed expectations of everything an ELOP instructional assistant could be. Their commitment to the continued care and support of students is evident in every action they take, whether it's lending a listening ear to a student in need or assisting their colleagues in the most challenging part of the day. This person has continued to show integrity and determination in every move they make. Their dedication, professionalism, I'm so excited for them. Professionalism and selflessness have been instrumental in maintaining a cohesive and harmonious atmosphere where everyone feels valued and respected no matter where they came from or where they are going. We truly could not imagine our program without him. Without further ado, please join me in congratulating Caden Hansen. The second individual exemplifies the very essence of empathy and determination. This year, this recipient has had to transition into a role with much more responsibility in a very short amount of time. In a world where extra responsibility can sometimes be challenging, this recipient has not only embraced it, but has flourished under its weight. Their determination to undertake this added responsibility has been extremely admirable. Their compassion for others and dedication to making every student they come in contact with feel seen, heard, and appreciated for who they are as individuals has truly transformed the atmosphere of our program at Sutter Creek Primary School. She truly embodies what it means to be a kind, compassionate, and caring individual. Please join me in congratulating Catherine Simmons. Thank you.
Our final presentation for the evening is from special education.
Good, okay. Good evening, school board, Superintendent Gibson, colleagues, cabinet, and Amador community. My name is Dr. Sadie Hedegaard. I'm your Assistant Superintendent of Special Education, as well as your SELPA Director for the County Office of Education. I am joined this evening by 3 of my amazing special education leadership colleagues, our Directors of Special Ed. They will introduce themselves when it is their turn to present coins. The process I will offer of identifying individuals was both challenging and extremely rewarding. Tonight, our team is focused on special education department staff that serve in itinerant positions. So they move from site to site as well as a community partner. As you have seen throughout the year and from other presentations from school sites, our special education staff has been awarded and honored through those presentations. We're very appreciative for the inclusive culture that exists within our site teams and have been celebrating alongside our special education department teams as they have been honored throughout the year. So with that context, I would first like to thank you for having me this evening. We're excited to be here, and I am very pleased to present a coin to an exceptional community partner, Nina Machado, who is the Executive Director of Amador First 5. If you would please join me. Thank you. So Amador First 5, formerly known as the Amador County Children and Families First Commission, was formed in 1998 by our Board of Supervisors. Nina joined and was hired as their Executive Director in 2002. She has resided, 2002. Yeah. She has resided in Amador County since 1990, and prior to her time with First 5, she worked in the area of public health. On behalf of our SELPA, as well as just our general special education community, we are so appreciative for the collaboration that exists between our 2 agencies. Amador First 5, in addition to Valley Mountain Regional Center, has been an instrumental partner to our Community Advisory Committee, and they're hosting Coffee and Connection for families, focusing on special education topics, often hosting more than 30 parents and families in a given evening. Ms. Machado donates more of her time to us. She serves on our Medi-Cal Collaborative for the district. In addition to just recognizing as a partner that they are doing amazing things on behalf of child development. From offering opportunities for play groups to the Imagination Library, which last time I checked, thank you, Dolly Parton, there were over 70%, I believe, of eligible students in our county that are receiving a book every month in the mail that is appropriately at their age level. Our agencies collaborate in order to provide the Summer Bridge program, which, as many of you know, is designed to support students that are transitioning to kindergarten in the fall and may have had little introduction previously to the structure and rhythm of a classroom. The list goes on and on. So tonight, I would like to thank Ms. Machado for your commitment to the greater Amador community. We would also like to ask for you to express our gratitude to the Amador First Five Commission for the collaboration which exists between our agencies. We look forward to continuing to build our partnership and having a positive impact in this community. So thank you. All right, and now I would like to turn it over to Dr. Steve Russell.
So when Sadie met with us and asked us to come up with the name of a person that we would like to honor, it was really, really hard, and names just started popping up on folks that we would like to bring before you. But the one we chose for the area that I'm over, which is I forgot how to do, which is the alternative special education, is Renee Keller. And Renee couldn't be here tonight, but I would still like to say a couple things about her, if that's okay. Renee works as a job coach in our workability program. She is housed at Amador High School and has provided service at Amador for years. And in addition to that, she works with the Ed Options program of Independence High School and Community School and the North Star Academy. And then this year, we asked her to help out with the Shenandoah School, which is our independent study for adults located in Plymouth. And she's done a wonderful job. If you've been to the Dead Fly Cafe or Pokerville Market or Jamba Juice, you're going to see students that Renee has had an opportunity to work with, and we really appreciate all that she's done. At Amador High School, she also sponsors the Bible Club and the projects that they do on campus. So she's a real asset to Amador County Schools, and this is going to be her last year. She's retiring. So I have the coin, and I'll find her at some point in one of our meetings to be able to give it to her. But I just wanted the board to know and the superintendent to know how much we appreciate Renee Keller. Thank you.
And Renee is also retiring this year as well.
So good afternoon, good evening, school board and Superintendent Gibson and cabinet and community. My name is Joshua Brock. I'm serve as Director of Special Education for Amador County Office of Education. And I'm honored to get to recognize this evening Christine Kiekefer, an exceptional member of our special education team who serves at a lot of sites and just gives her all each and every day for our students. And I've been so impressed with her. Unfortunately, she is attending a graduation this evening. So she's not here with us, but we'll get the coin to her and hopefully she can see this and just hear all the great things we have that myself and her colleagues think about her. She's served the Amador community for 12 years as an occupational therapist. Her colleagues describe her with a lot of impressive adjectives: dedicated, unwaveringly kind and supportive, knowledgeable, professional, a team player. Somebody summed it up very well with a sentence that she's an all-around great human being to know and to work with. One example that I would point to just in my time working with Christine is how diligent she was over the summer to help set up classrooms to ensure that sensory and visual supports were ready for students as they come back, to get them started off in the beginning of the school year right, and to try to ease their transition from program to program. So I will find her and present this coin, but she is fantastic. Thank you.
Steve and Joshua, if you guys will make sure that sometime you get Haley out to get pictures with both those employees, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good evening, school board, Superintendent Gibson, cabinet, and Amador community. It's nice to see you all on this very delightful day outside. It's beautiful out. Great to see you all here. My name is Jonathan Murray, and I serve as the Director of Special Education for Amador Unified School District. Thank you for having me this evening to present a coin to an exceptional member of our education team, Ms. Stacy Herrera. Stacy has served the Amador community for almost 18 years as a school psychologist, currently working at Ione Middle School and Ione Elementary Schools. In addition to being a site psychologist, she also serves as a lead district psychologist where she assists the administrative team to oversee the district's school psychology department. Her colleagues describe her as a wonderful person, dedicated employee who can be counted on, and as well as a team player who truly goes out of her way to help staff, students, and families. One specific example of Stacy's contribution comes to mind includes a time where our department had a distinct special education-based project that needed to be completed. When Stacy was asked if she would be willing to complete this assignment that was outside of her normal realm of duties, she without hesitation agreed and did a wonderful job completing the work. I personally have really enjoyed working with her. She's been a delight. As you know, this is my first year with the district, so I had a lot to learn and about the district, the history, everything. And with Stacy being on here for 18 years, she knows, she's like a historian. You know, she taught me really quickly, you know, about the ins and outs, and I really have enjoyed working with her. So I am so pleased and privileged to present Stacy with this coin of acknowledgement of her contributions to this educational community. Congratulations, Stacy. Thank you.
And you guys can all follow Stacy out to the back to see Haley. That'd be great.
I just wanted to thank Dr. Hadergaard for delegating the coin selection process. I thought that was really awesome. Also, for reaching out to First Five and Nina, I thought that was also very demonstrative of how they have to work together as school district and public and county agency. I think that that's really awesome, and thank you, Nina, because I know that when I was working the junior building at the fair, I know that you were instrumental in the mother's lounge in the bathroom, and there is no better judge for the kids' crafts in the building than this wonderful woman here, so thank you. Okay, we are to employee organizations. Mrs. Jensen, are you here for the Amador County Teachers Association? She is here. She's going to make her way up. Thank you.
Good evening. Isn't it beautiful outside? Sorry we're here, in a way. And at the same time, I'm also sorry that there's an awards ceremony. People are receiving scholarships this evening. It would be great if you could be there. What a beautiful, I heard it was over $200,000 that people are receiving scholarships money. That's, as we all know, and having just paid off my college loan last year, yes, and I'm that old, it would have been great to have been part of that. All right, good evening, Dr. Gibson, Board of Trustees, Cabinet members, and people in attendance here and via computer. I am ACTA President Jeannie Jensen, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak before you on behalf of the Amador County Teachers Association. We call ourselves ACTA. I believe it is imperative for you to be aware of recent decisions that have serious repercussions for the teaching staff at every site. On April 11th, ACTA felt forced to declare impasse over just a second. Thank you. Over salary negotiations due to the inflexibility of the district office to improve their salary offer. Let it be clear that the state provided an 8.22% COLA adjustment, which by the district's own published budgets adds up to, $4,356,224 of ongoing funds. During negotiation, it was discovered that the only plan was ever been to offer 3% on the salary scale. Their offer was never contingent upon budget concerns for the next fiscal year or the years beyond. In order for you to appreciate our choice for impasse, please consider that the 3% offer is the equivalent of $775,000, which is just 17.8% of the monies provided by the state to help employees shoulder the burden of increased costs for just plain living. This must be translated to mean we are not offered a pay raise, but instead a fraction of the money intended to combat inflation. What happened to the nearly $3.6 million? I have no idea. But I can tell you that one impact is also on the board packet tonight, and that is a list of resignations and retirements of incredibly talented and valuable teachers. Let me point out one more complicating issue. The Public Employees Relation Board has been asked to mediate this crossroads, and they offered 10 different dates in May for a resolution. The union was ready to make those dates work, but the district office said no. Instead, we are set up for June 3rd. A significant impact of more inflexibility is that an entire year of any financial help has been lost for the teachers, and that is incredibly demoralizing. Lastly, I want to make sure you hear our appreciation for the pay raises for 2 of the past 4 years. Through negotiations, ACTA and the district office have made significant headway towards making a salary schedule that is more competitive in comparison to our neighboring districts. We celebrate that pay scales have improved 14.25%. Though, to be clear, we are still below the rate of inflation for those years. What remains difficult is that the district's LCFF funding increased by 26.49%, 26.5% at the same time, 14.25 versus 26.5%. Amador County teachers remain steadfast in their dedication to the students of Amador County, and they continually work above and beyond to provide the best education within their power. Please consider the damage being done to the morale of our teaching staff, and thank you for your consideration.
Ms. Martz, did you have comments tonight? Ms. Martz is for the California School Employees Association, CSEA.
Thank you. Again, my name is Amy Martz, and I am from CSEA 239, the district side of the classified employees. And while I don't have much to report tonight, I wanted to let you know that at our next board meeting, or your next board meeting, you are going to be presented with 3 MOUs that, pending CSEA ratification, I encourage you to approve. At this time, I want to thank Robert Norton, who is my boss, but he found a problem, and he quickly acted on it and turned it over to Jared Critchfield, and they saw that it could adversely affect some retirees and their TRACS program. And because of their quick actions, they got together an MOU and presented to CSEA 239 so that it could be resolved quickly before anybody retired this year. So I want to give my gratitude for doing that to protect our retirees. That's just one of the MOUs that you'll see. So please approve all of them, but that particular one is very important. Negotiations are continuing with great progress. We have agreed on the majority of the proposals put before us, or that we've put before the district, and we're ironing out the rest. Sorry, I was over at the scholarship and I gave a speech and then came right over here, so I have no voice left. So, and I left my notes at home, so I'm kind of winging it, sorry. I wanted to invite you again. I've extended the deadline for a dinner and a movie night to celebrate our CSEW, that's Classified School Employees Week, that honors all of the classified employees during the month of May. And on May 23rd, we're going to have a dinner and a movie night at Argonaut High School, and the food is being prepared by Chef Mike and his culinary team, but it's the, what is it? The culinary student, but they have a special class. It's the catering class, isn't it catering? Yeah, the catering class. So they did it last year and it was phenomenal. This year is going to be a taco bar and it's going to be outstanding, I'm sure. So if you haven't RSVP'd already, board, I'd really like to see you there. Yes, ma'am.
I tried to RSVP today. It was asked after the deadline.
So I extended it, so it should
Okay.
work.
I will do that.
Okay. So let me know if it doesn't.
Okay.
Because I can just reach in.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So with that, I think that I'm done. I'm sure there was something else on my other notes, but I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Martz. Okay, we are to our school consolidation section. We have one public comment on consolidation. Mrs. Diane Bennett. I'll go ahead and read the blurb. A person wishing to be heard by the board shall first be recognized by the president and shall then proceed to comment as briefly as the subject permits. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the board on non-agenda items. That also applies to agenda items. The board shall limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. With board consent, the board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take a poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Thank you.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent Diane Bennett. Here again tonight, still concerned about consolidation and the extra monies that are continuing to go out for the EIR that are going to be requested. I can't state enough that this should have been done before the blank check was offered, before so many things and so many wheels got set in motion. Seeing Dennis being recognized tonight, that's just one more reason that I will continue to fight for Amador to remain Amador and that field to stay, and Argonaut to remain Argonaut and their fields to stay. There's been a lot of community concerns, some of which I'm voicing tonight because people are at the Amador Scholarship Night. That place was packed. I got to stay for 20, 25 minutes, and it was amazing seeing some of the things that the kids were getting tonight. It would have been really, really nice if it could have been on a night that wasn't a board meeting. But some of the continued community concerns and questions about consolidation that I was asked to bring forward, and some that are mine myself, is that most recently I was asked if our superintendent is actively looking for another job outside the area. This was speculation only. And there were comments and questions about, are there requirements in her contract to disclose this? Is the board made aware? How is this handled? If this were the case, would it change the scope of the current consolidation project? As the speculation continued about the long leave of personal absence from the superintendent after her taking family medical leave and bereavement leave, our superintendent spoke at the last meeting, thanking everyone for their grace and understanding during that leave. And then I actually talked to a friend of mine, and we were having a conversation just about school and how our kids were doing, and she lives up in the Bernie area. And she told me that they almost hired a new superintendent from my area, but that the district couldn't match the request of that superintendent, and they went to their second choice, and they now have a new superintendent. I wasn't able to find out the dates of when the interviews were, but they were within the last couple of months. So please, board, do your homework, be proactive, and ask the questions. Our community is concerned, and our school district budget can't continue down the current pathway of spending millions of dollars for a project that is not well thought out and that the superintendent may not have a long-term interest in.
Okay, so I think the only item we have is the general update. Mr. Critchfield and Dr. Gibson.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we just provided information tonight. I know the board had questions about the certificate of participation, the interest rate, and some of the details when it comes to the finances, and so those are contained in this update. It was a 3.81% interest rate that is on the certificate of participation. We timed it when the markets were at a good spot at the beginning of January to be able to pull that certificate of participation, and then currently are investing those funds as we await the finalization of the EIR so that we can make some interest during this time until we'll be in the construction phase at this point anticipated in 2025 to begin expending those funds.
In addition to that, as you know, we postponed consolidation to the fall of 2026. That was mainly due to concerns as we were working with other agencies, and they were requesting that we do the additional studies prior to asking the board to approve or deny the final EIR. And so in item 15.4 below, you'll see items A through C, where we are making that request based on those meetings and conversations we have had with key public entities. This will allow us to have all studies completed prior to the completion of the the DEIR, and will require the district then to recirculate the initial DEIR to include the updated information. In the discussion items below, also 15.5, we're asking the board to approve, again, the recirculation once the additional studies noted in 15.4 are approved. This will be at no additional cost, for this contract with PlaceWorks was already approved at a prior meeting. Just an update on a couple of the community groups, the community input team, as well as the consolidation bargaining unit team meetings. We've put those on hold for obvious reasons as we work through the DEIR process. Once that EIR comes to the board, if it is approved, then we will start those meetings again. The very last bullet there, the Consolidation Hub webpage has been expanded to include additional historical perspective presented to the, at board meetings prior. This information includes board meeting information from 2013 through 2015, as well as the 2019 FCMAT report. I believe we are working on a few other items to add to that, and we're happy to add any additional things that people feel would be important to have in that hub area. Those are all the updates for now.
Are there any questions on this item from the trustees?
Yes. So when I was reading through here, it said that we had set aside about $784,000 to prepay the year of interest on the COPs. I don't know what I'm doing. One of my questions is I guess what happens after that? If we do the studies and if the EIR is recirculated and then it comes to that it's not possible, what's the plan for the money and the plan for the repayment on that?
So there is a way to return the money, and that will be an entire process that we'd have to walk the board through with our financial advisors to show you how that would be done, but there is a way to do that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that if that was happening, that we weren't just having these payments that we can't not make.
And the prepayment was built into the pulling of the loan, so it wasn't district money that went out for that prepayment.
Okay. And then at the very end, we had talked about some of the historical context of the topic of consolidation, and I had hoped that we would have some sort of kind of somewhat of a presentation about that. I feel that it is really important for the public to be knowledgeable of, and I know that some people are more well-versed in consolidation throughout the years than others. But also to note that the relevance of that when discussing completing studies and recirculating the draft EIR for the public, and the website has been updated. However, I think that sometimes it's far-fetched to think that everyone's gonna go to our hub and read through lots of documents and historical information. So I do hope that we could have some sort of, even just very simple to make it easy for people, and myself personally. I was like 19 in 2013 or something like that. So to go over some of these things and just recognize that consolidation has been a topic that's been going on, and I feel like for a long time, and that some of these things, I think they need to be looked at either way to kind of put them to rest one way or another. And so I'm hoping that we can maybe get something like that along with the website being updated.
I can have, if you'd like, I can also have Haley put something together that really simplifies things, and we can get that out on multiple platforms as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Mr. Crowe, did you have a question?
Mainly just comment. I went to the hub, and that information that was added, I think it's really important for everyone in the community to look at. There's information dating back to, I believe, 2013 that talks about the importance of, what the district's been facing. And I think 2018 or 19, additional information that brought up the option of, or maybe it was a recommendation, I don't know if that's the correct word, but it was brought up as something that should be considered as far as consolidation. So it's not something that's been just brought up in the last couple of years. It's been ongoing, and I think it's really important for the community to access that. And I agree with Kayla, some type of short presentation I think would be really helpful in getting more eyes of the community on these documents. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Crowe. Mr. Marzano, did you have additional questions?
Yes, I had some questions. I'm still trying to process what Mr. Critchfield and Dr. Gibson just put out with their reports. I believe I heard that these entities, what did you guys say about these entities that were going to redo the EIR, and who were these entities?
Those were the additional studies that were requested through the original the EIR process, the CEQA process.
You said that they requested to, can you say it again so I can, what
Yes.
about these entities and who were they? That's what I want to know. When you
So-
say entities, who are they?
Sure, like ACTC, various cities throughout the county. Who am I missing, Jerry? I know there's another one.
Caltrans?
Caltrans, thank you, that's who I was missing, yes. These are additional studies that they had requested through that comment period. Normally, in the EIR process, those would be built in to the EIR that would come to the board for approval or denial, and then those studies then would come out after that. They have requested that we do it prior to the board voting on the EIR. Jared, do you want to ask, Mr. Critchfield, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just two different approaches, and we had in the draft EIR language that committed us to do these further studies after the EIR was approved, and then, like Dr. Gibson said, based on the feedback from these entities and in good faith, we're just flipping the order. And so we're doing those studies that we would have done after the EIR if it had been approved. Now we're doing them prior to that and making them part of the draft EIR, and then eventually part of the final EIR.
We're flipping
The order
The
of when
order,
those
so-
studies would be done. Yes.
Okay. And the reason I asked who these entities were is, one, I wanted to know, and two, I'm thinking in my head, okay, ACTC, who was the gentleman who represented ACTC, Mr. Gedney. Is this what he was referring to we weren't doing?
I don't know, you'd have to talk to him directly, but they did reference further traffic studies, which we're doing. A lot of what we're doing with the traffic study is in response to Caltrans and the requests that they have made.
And with Caltrans, help me understand why we didn't do this with Caltrans before? and why now?
This is all part of the process. So Caltrans then, through their comment letter, identified these things that they would like to see us study further.
Okay. I hear what you guys are saying, but I also am flashing back to the time in this boardroom where these entities that you speak of were not happy and extremely upset because of the process that we were choosing to take. No?
So the process that we were taking originally is normally the process. We are now asking the board to take a step back and add these in, which was of the request of those entities. That is not the normal process.
And did they request this from Jump Street, from the beginning?
No.
Not all of these requests, no. The majority of them came in as during that 45-day comment period of the draft EIR.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Are you,
I
we can
don't-
come back to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I'm still,
If you have a PS,
hamster's still,
that's fine.
yeah.
Mr. Whitaker?
I kind of agree with what people have been saying, that, you know, looking at these things again, looking at these reports, getting the information out there so we know what we're dealing with, and to possibly find out, you know, if it's really doable. Because one of these things is the community said, along with these entities, is you got to look at this point, you got to look at this point, you got to look at this point, all of which the EIR process was looking at. But I really feel good about having these studies done. Even though it will cost us a little bit of money, we'll have a better idea of what it would cost us down the road to see if it's feasible or not. So that's my comment.
So I want to summarize what I'm hearing in all of the comments from my fellow trustees. First, we are seeking some additional context, I think a greater overview, where the additional request, the additional cost for these subsequent studies, we believe is better justified, is better needed, that the need is documented if we have a review of the deeper historical context of consolidation and why it is currently today something that is that we are expending money on. So in that regard, I also agree with my trustees on the request for just a brief overview, going back further, and especially touching on the FCMAT report, which I don't know what those letters stand for, but I know that it is a key document in the history of our district because it speaks to the time when we had no money. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Critchfield.
I would say very little money.
Okay,
Never ran out.
okay. I stand corrected.
Just a slight correction. I know what you mean.
A few $100s.
Felt like no money.
Yes.
You can say that.
Yes. So I think we need that clarity. And I think that we may have objections for the additional expenditure of these contracts, but we want it, we want the record to show. We want the objections documented. We want the necessary, we want to know how great is the lift to accomplish this. And we feel it's necessary. So that first part, and then also acknowledging what staff is advising us, which is that typically you would consider whether or not to approve the draft EI or the EIR with that mitigation of those additional studies. And then, of course, you would still have to determine whether or not the result of those studies was a deal breaker to proceed. And we are voluntarily, we're being recommended by our staff to not follow that typical process. And we're going to pause, and we're going to take the time and the money to do those additional studies before we circulate again for public comment, so that we have public input and we have all the completed studies before we consider whether or not to approve the EIR. So This is a discussion item. Did you need approval for anything here?
No, we do not, because we embedded all of the items 15.4 and 15.5 into the action items.
Okay, so acknowledging that it is a discussion item, is it possible that we can figure out on which board meeting you would like to do that brief historical overview?
Absolutely.
We don't have to decide right now, but we will be looking for that on an upcoming meeting in the near future.
And I'm going to have Haley put something together as well to get out far sooner than that.
Thank you,
But then we
Haley.
can also do, I already emailed her. And so we'll get something out, I would say, in the next few days that outlines it, kind of breaks it all down, but then we can absolutely bring that information then and do a presentation at an upcoming board meeting, probably in June.
Ms. Julie, I have a question, and maybe I'm just sitting on a word too hard or too long, but you've used the term brief presentation regarding the history, correct? Is that what you've been saying? And in my head, I think of we're checking a box, let's hurry up and make it brief. I don't want to do that. I mean, am I tripping on something that shouldn't be tripped on, or it just, the word brief feels uncomfortable with me? I don't want it to be gun decked.
When I hear the word brief, I get what you're saying. When I hear the word brief, I think that we also need to recognize that people don't want to sit through a 4-hour history of superintendents and consolidation topics throughout Amador County. That I don't want to sit through that either. However, I think that just having that context of, hey, in 2013, we did this and we already spent this much money doing this, and then we just forgot about it. And now we're here and we're doing this again and we're spending this much money. Are we just gonna forget about it? And then in 5 years, we're gonna be like, oh, hey, consolidation. And then we're gonna spend a bunch of money and then we're just gonna drop it because we didn't get however far in the process. So I feel like I get what you're saying about the brief thing, and I think there's probably a happy medium that hopefully we could come to.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll make sure.
It makes sense. I definitely don't want a college presentation,
Correct.
but maybe
We will make sure that all the details are in it, but it's bulleted, it's
an understandable.
straight to the facts, correct?
Understandable for us and for the public who maybe has not been privy to even as many discussions as we have. Yes, it's got to be digestible and it's got to be easily understood in order to understand why. We have to understand the why. So this is what we need.
Are there two of you who would like to work with Jared, myself, and Haley on that final product? I would definitely like feedback to make sure we have enough, not too much, that it's, all the things. I think that would be great if there are two of you that would be willing to work with us on that.
I'd be happy to help.
Okay, Shane and anybody else?
I'm available, so if you can't find a second, I'll do it.
Anybody else? Mr. Marzano?
Oh, no, you have your two.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Shane and Jim, we'll be in touch. Okay, thanks. I think that'll be helpful.
Thank you, gentlemen, for volunteering as tribute. We are to public comment on non-agenda items. We have 4 speaker cards tonight. I've already read the blurb. First up, we have Berenice Feliciano, and then Jade Meza. Welcome.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Dr. Gibson, Cabinet, and my beautiful Amador community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting, considering that it may be the only time I will be able to state my point before the end of this school year. My main reason for being here is to bring awareness to you about early release Wednesdays. While it seems to be somewhat a success to our K-12 schools, it is detrimental to our younger population of our extensive support needs preschool students. Currently, there are 4 special day preschool classes and 4 aides. You do the math. 1 classroom is for medically fragile students, while the other 3 are autism specific. If you know about autism, you know that Creating and maintaining a consistent routine in the classroom is instrumental to alleviate their confusion. On early release Wednesdays, our students are forced to deviate from their routine, causing them to experience significant behaviors that are not easy to redirect and deal with if there isn't sufficient adult support in the classrooms. This has been the case since January, when 3 of our classrooms met their full capacity. Too many of these Wednesdays continue to wreak havoc on our families, but especially on our students. While we preschool teachers on numerous occasions have asked to be excused from following the early release Wednesday schedule, the request has been shut down without a single person coming into our classrooms to observe our Wednesdays and to see how detrimental these days are for our students. Too many times I have had to open my door to yell for help from any service provider who may be in the building to come and help, because my one aide is dealing with changing a diaper and I need another adult to supervise the rest of my class while I am dealing with a self-injurious student trying to help them de-escalate. And I am a competent teacher with 8 years of experience teaching in autism-only programs. While it may seem that these behaviors affect only one student, that is not the case. They affect everyone in the classroom. We absolutely cannot leave our students unattended, even if it means ignoring our bladders for the next 3 hours. Because again, we do not have enough adult support on early release Wednesdays. Before the next school year begins, please take into serious consideration that when we request to be excused from the early release Wednesday schedule, it is for the sake of our students and their safety. That is what early intervention is about. Let's remember that our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. Thank you.
Jade Mesa is next, followed by Diane Bennett, and then Diane Bennett. And that's all of our speaker cards for this evening.
Let me get my notes out. All right, well, I'll start that. Hello, my name is Jade Lucerito Mesa. I am a teacher at Pine Grove STEM School, one of the best. It's in our song. I come to you again because I saw my job posting on AdJoin, because you guys decided, you five, along with Dr. Palazuelos, decided to non-reelect me, even though I have 7 years of teaching experience, a multiple subject teaching credential with BCLAT authorization in Spanish, as well as a master's in teaching in urban education and social justice. It could probably apply to rural education too. But I was looking at the job posting, and I brought one of my observation narrations for you guys, because I wanted to point out some of the things that I had. So the first qualification, legal credential required. I've got one. You guys hired a teacher that didn't have one. Fun fact. Let's see. Meets and instructs assigned classes in the location and at the times designated. Check. Plans a program of study that as much as possible meets the individual needs, interests, and abilities of the students. Check. Creates a classroom environment that is conducive to learning and appropriate to the maturity and interests of the students. Check. Prepares for classes assigned, shows written evidence of preparation upon request of immediate supervisor. Check. You could check my lesson plan book as well. It dates back to August, and I have one for last year. Encourages students to set and maintain standards of classroom behavior. Check. Guides the learning process toward the achievement of Amador County Unified School District's curriculum goals and in harmony with the goals. Establishes clear objectives for all lessons, units, projects, and the like to communicate these objectives to students. Check and double check, because I teach a combo class. Employs a variety of instructional techniques and instructional media consistent with the physical limitations of the location provided and the needs of the capabilities of the students or student groups involved. Check. Strives to implement by instruction and action the Amador County Unified School District's philosophy of education and instructional goals and objectives. Check. Assesses the accomplishments of students on a regular basis and provides progress reports as required. Check. I do extra parent conference meetings on top of that. Parent-teacher conference, sorry about that, getting a little nervous here. Assists in the diagnoses of learning disabilities of students seeking assistance as required. Check. Takes all necessary and reasonable precautions to protect students, materials, and facilities. Check. Maintains accurate, complete, and correct records as required by law. district policy and administrative regulation. Check. Assist the administration in implementing all policies and rules governing student life and conduct, and for the classroom develops reasonable rules of classroom behavior and procedures and maintains order in the classroom in a fair and just manner. Check. Makes provision for being available to students and parents for education-related purposes outside the instructional day, even past 3:05, when I'm no longer getting paid. When required or requested to do so under reasonable terms. Check. Plans and supervises purposeful assignments for teacher aides and volunteers and assists in the evaluation of their performance. Haven't had to, but check. For the volunteers. Strives to maintain and improve professional competence. Check. Attends staff meetings and serves on staff committees as required. Check. I'm even an Odyssey. Instructs students in specialized subjects when assigned by principal. Check. I have met every single one of your job requirements, and yet you still made the poor decision to non-reelect me next year.
I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are up.
All right. Please let me know when I can reapply.
Good evening again, Board, Cabinet, Superintendent. I've sat here and I've listened again tonight to just a few speakers and from our representatives from the unions. Every single school district got 8.2% COLA to be given to teachers to help keep up with the cost of living, to help keep this district able to hire teachers so that they were competitive with other districts nearby. Hearing that there was never any chance of getting more than 3% is disheartening. I feel for the educators in this county. I know that earlier this year, I misspoke when I said that the district office had gotten raises. I'm sorry. They got salary realignments when they got different positions given to them. Commonly, most of us will think, oh, they got a boost in pay. That's a raise. But technically, it was salary realignments. So I just want to say on record that, yes, I might have stated that people got raises when they got salary realignments. Knowing that we have spent so much money for consolidation, knowing that the top-heavy district office has gotten those salary realignments, and that the people with the boots on the ground, the people that are in the classroom that are educating the future of this county can't even be offered more than 3% when insurances are going up, and we know that everything has gone up. Gas, eggs, whatever it might be. PG&E, ooh, that gets us. If you want to keep good help in this county, you have to start treating them well, because it's not bad to drive to another county another 5 or 10 minutes to be treated well and respected. And that's what a lot of people are doing. I heard of another teacher from Amador that was just recruited to another district with between a $5,000 and $7,000 hiring bonus. Someone that was tenured, that didn't need to leave here, that was very well liked at the school. That's what we're going to continue to see. The retirements and the moving districts, even with tenure. My other subject that I put in for tonight is still on sports. I listened to the father from the Argonaut girls last meeting, and a friend called me, and she said, you might want to know that another thing that's happened is when we used to be helping with the fundraisers and stuff, many of the different sports teams started actually setting aside funds over at Amador Community Foundation, or having a separate bank account so that when they raised funds for students to be able to go on field trips and whatnot, that they didn't have to go back through the district to say, oh, please let us have our funds back. When we did the Amador Tree Farm for Amador Girls Soccer, we kept it so our girls could get bags, so our girls could have new uniforms or warm-ups, and so we had new nets, and so we could go to tournaments. Well, little birdie let me know that a certain consolidated AD and a certain principal called over to Community Foundation and said, we want every bit of funds that has something to do with Argonaut deposited into the Argonaut account. They're not supposed to have those separate funds anymore. So those people that thought that they raised funds to go to those separate entities are now possibly getting those pulled, and they went into a general pool that the AD could use. Another birdie called and said, prison won't donate anymore because they donated for new girls' soccer jerseys, and it never happened. You need to look into that.
Okay. Consent agenda. We have a very packed consent agenda tonight. Does anybody have any questions? So we have on here an MOU for the LATL program. Would you guys elaborate what that is?
Yeah, that's the Calaveras lunch program for the summer. We do it every year where we work collaboratively with them.
I would not have guessed that by the LATL.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. The two MOUs for K through 12 SWP, is that a grant or is that a?
It is a grant, yes.
Two different grants? Okay. Have we gotten those before?
Yes.
Okay.
These both deal with CTE, don't they?
Correct.
Okay, so I did want to point out on our HR report recommendations, we have several teachers who have already volunteered for summer school. And I wish to extend my gratitude for those teachers for volunteering to teach over part of their summer. Thank you. You are very appreciated.
Thank you, Mrs. Jensen is one of them.
Thank you, Jeannie. If there are no additional questions, I'm ready for a motion to approve.
One question. On the teachers that retire, is there anything that allows them to become subs the immediate upon their retirement, or is there a waiting period?
Having recently retired 4 years ago, it's 6 months unless they come to the board and the board approves a waiver for that.
Yes.
Okay.
Any of the teachers who contact us once they retire and say, I would like to start working in September as a sub, then we'll bring those in July or August whenever they notify us for the board to approve prior to that 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a great question. That used to not be allowed at all.
I know that we're always looking for subs and always looking for help, and
Yes.
it's always good to keep that that veteran leadership
Correct.
around.
Yes.
Are you gonna make a motion?
If no one has any other questions, I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crowe?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
I know I asked this once before, but is there a possibility to get the agenda on the screen? Do we not do that anymore?
I don't think we ever have, but we can ask. Yeah.
Okay.
But we were, let's finish the vote and then we'll
Yes.
go ahead. So Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. So Mr. Marzano has just requested that if we are able to, and maybe if you can't do it tonight, then maybe at the next meeting, if we can display the agenda as we proceed through
We
the.
usually have paper copies at the back table.
Oh, are there copies back there?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, we can bring more. You can go right onto the website and all of our agendas are electronic, but we'll make sure we have additional copies going forward. Des can't display the agenda at the same time as she's taking minutes. That's the hard part, yeah. But we'll make sure we have additional copies going forward, and you can absolutely access it if you would like to on your cell phone. I have a copy, if somebody would like one, you can have my copy if anybody needs one.
I always thought it was up there because it always helps my blind eyes. I know I have this beautiful laptop and I can zoom it in, but I'm still squinting on it, and those big ones help me out more, so that's why I was asking.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's just because she takes notes right in the system.
And you know, now that I think about it, it isn't the agenda that's up there, it's the presentations. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, I remember it's the presentations because I could see.
You can certainly have a printed copy also if that helps you.
Well, no, it'd be worse.
Okay, never mind.
It'd be way worse.
Okay, so we'll just have additional copies going forward for the public as well. Okay,
Promise I'll go to the VA and get glasses. I promise.
thank you. So we do, for communications, that's in the different spot than it normally is, because normally our discussion items are 14, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, I don't think
you finished the vote. Mr. Whitaker?
Sorry.
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. I did that already. Yeah, we did finish the vote.
Oh.
Yeah,
Thanks, Ms.
that's okay.
Sorry. Michelle's taking a little nap.
Do you want us to vote again? No. Okay, so for communications, we did have the added letter from CDE.
Yes, and that's in the same spot.
Okay. Moving on to discussion action items. I have a discussion item for us because we had the question at a previous meeting whether our student board members could make actions, could move to take action. So we have that policy to lead off our board policy updates, actually. So this one doesn't need an update, but it's very related to what we're talking about tonight. So the policy does give our student board members the right. They are limited by existing ed code to not move on labor negotiation related items. Did you guys have any questions on that? I just wanted to make it officially clear that that we have authorized them to take action in meetings.
Well, I was actually the one that brought this up, and my concern was I hear what you're saying with labor negotiations, and then I also was told that night personnel situations. So that's why I had asked, maybe Mr. Palazuelos got the answer. Consent agendas have approval and/or denial of personnel recommendations. Is that something that they can or cannot? Because reading this, it doesn't say personnel recommendations, but.
This was actually me who received this information for President Burns. So the only thing that they cannot participate in are any actions related to student expulsions, employee discipline, dismissal, and release, labor negotiations, so contract or raises, approval of collective bargaining agreements with unions, and salary increases.
So my question again is, suspensions and expulsions are on consent agenda.
No, they're not. Those are closed session.
Those are closed session.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of these, except for salary increases and approval of collective bargaining agreements, would be part of closed session.
Okay.
Everything else would be, yeah. So like consent, they can do consent because we don't put any of those items on consent.
Okay, right. I'm just trying to
It's a great question.
not get caught up in something.
Agreed. Thank you.
We needed that specific clarification, so that's why we are discussing it.
And when I read this, how I read it, and maybe the educators can educate me. So this highlighted area, student board members may make motions that may be acted upon by the board except on matters dealing with employer-employee relations pursuant to government code, et cetera. In my brain, the paragraph before that contradicts that.
So I had legal review that, and specifically the highlighted section, but the whole policy. And the feedback that I got was that, yes, this is a current policy. This is how CSBA still has it standing. And then if you look at the background information on the cover, then we spelled it out there to just delineate that, because it was a little confusing as to what specifically those specific sections were related to.
Okay. So, for clarification, their vote can't really.
Your vote is just advisory.
Yes.
It's not counted as part of the votes to approve. It's advisory.
But a motion.
But we have authorized them through our board policy as allowed by Ed Code. This was approved in 2018. So before my time on the board and close to when you started, I would say. So it's been a while. Okay.
Sweet.
Yes, so I'm glad that we brought that back. Clearly, it needed,
I don't see it on this particular month's consent agenda, but in the past, we've released some employees during their probation as part of the consent agenda. I seem to remember that. And that,
We haven't had any currently from the last meeting.
not from the last meeting, but what I'm saying is, like James
I
is
feel you.
saying, they
I'm
can't
picking
deal
up
with,
what you're putting down.
you know, making a motion to release an employee, but if we're putting it in the consent agenda,
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
the consent agenda, and they make the motion, I move to, you know, approve the consent agenda, then they're making,
So maybe what we should do that, usually anytime we're releasing an employee, that's gonna be in closed session anyways. Usually a release isn't on here, even if it's the release of a probationary teacher or employee, we're going to do that, you know, we always offer them.
well, the last
to
one,
resign.
it was a resolution.
Correct. So, right, but that's an actual agenda item.
Yeah.
Correct. That's not that's something that's separate, that's not something that's on consent. But what we could do, just for sake of keeping it super clean, is we could just ask student board members not to motion on consent, since we have personnel there, and then that way it's extra clean.
Okay.
I bring it up only because of our past.
Correct, yeah.
Actions. Now that means that you guys are gonna have to, which I assume you already do, but fine tooth comb each each item in the consent agenda to not violate this beautifully written letter that was presented today by Board Member Burns.
Or we can just not allow them to move on to make motions
There it is
to
there,
approve the
right.
consent agenda. I think that would be the
that's the best
easier.
bet.
Okay.
That would be the better path and
Most consistent way.
also eliminate the possibility of.
Do we put that in writing for the next board members, 323 years from now, or do we just keep it upon
I think what we
ourselves?
probably need to do is go back and revise that board bylaw.
Okay.
I think that's what we should do. So I will reach out to Ms. Burns and to.
So we'll make the change and bring it back. Because we can't act on it, because it was specified as discussion only tonight.
And Ms. Burns and Ms. Parker are the two that are designated as the bylaw committee.
Perfect.
So I'll reach out to our attorney, ask her to help us rewrite that so it's crystal clear what they can and can't, just because it is pretty gray. It's hard to decipher between that.
Okay.
And then we can bring that back at another meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson.
Sure.
So we are going to keep chugging along on board policy updates. First, we have Mr. Critchfield with policies for the business department.
Yeah, I'm going to speak for all three of us. There are numerous board policies tonight. All of those are laid out in the board packet. There are 2 attachments for each, one highlighting the changes, whether those be additions or deletions, and then one with a clean copy of what that policy would look like with the recommended additions and deletions. We have areas under business, educational services, and human resources, and we're happy to answer any questions.
I am surprised that the very first one about the nutritionally adequate breakfast and lunch, I'm surprised that's a new law.
So it's more focused on the nutritionally adequate breakfast has always been a requirement. It's the during each school day, free of charge There were actions taken during COVID that were more temporary in nature, and so this makes it more permanent.
Gotcha.
Just a quick side note, for that, where you said it's free of charge, does that go based on district, or does that just everywhere now? Like the free, the cost being free or whatever?
Statewide.
Statewide, okay.
I'm just gonna ask you, Mr. Critchfield, is there anything in here that is like a drastic change?
No. No, these are just minor updates in my section.
Okay, so nothing that we would need to call out specifically for
No.
members of the public?
No, it's just more updating with that law that was changed to make sure our policies align with that for free and reduced lunch and for free meals for all.
I have a question regarding that.
Sure.
I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to ask it. Do the students that attend field trips who check that meal box, is this what they fall under? Is this what that meal falls under? Excuse me, not they. Or athletes who travel to away games? That's something different, no? Field trips, travel to games. What I'm asking is, I've seen at other schools where the food services department, I don't know, I don't want to speak on that. If I see that field trip students, I see that athletes, I see that people that are leaving our schools or their schools have food with them that's provided by their cafeteria. Does this fall under that?
So it could if they leave prior to lunch being served.
That's why I was struggling to ask the question.
The majority of our sports are leaving after lunch has been served.
In field trip kids, would this be the criteria that they would fall under?
Yeah, typically on a field trip, though, the school works out other methods for making sure everybody eats on the field trip.
It's usually a brown bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But sometimes they eat at the location they're going to. They work out things like that. I mean, it just depends on the field trip.
I just had one quick question on here, just this, with the update, it clarifies that the districts are required to make available the breakfast and lunch to any student who requests a meal regardless. I mean, I feel like that's already been happening, so I guess I'm just kind of like, am I correct in saying that? Like, I feel like if a kid came up to
Yeah.
lunch, like, they're gonna give them a lunch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's already been happening, but like I said, this is more, you know, when laws get updated, then you have policies that don't necessarily align perfectly with that. And so that's just to align with the updated law.
Okay.
But in practice, that's already been happening.
Why can't our athletes be provided lunches from the school? Because it's after school hours, would that be the answer?
Yeah. Yeah, we feed them breakfast and lunch.
For real.
I don't have any more questions. I don't know if anybody else does. But.
I find the HR updates having to do with the retaliation for union activities to be very reactive to a specific case.
It's typically what it takes in the state of California.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, that's usually
Yeah.
when new policies are made, is they're always reactionary, new laws are reactionary. That's typical.
Sorry, are we supposed to approve all of the policies right now? Is that what we're looking for? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The reason I asked is because I actually utilized the sticky note option in the app.
Okay, yes.
I'd like to utilize that sticky note option right now. Boop. And, of course, it's not working.
I know, I hate the sticky note.
The, how do you use that? I put the sticky note in there, but I can't find it now.
Are you logged in?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you click it, it should open up.
Oh, there it is. In this one, it says, policy update, 0450, B1, Ms. Pachette's policy. In the wording, let me find it real quick. School employee, student, parent, education rights holder, specified to bring concerns. I have my sticky note, and what my sticky says, who determines the meritness? Because it says, oh, here it is. So here it says, oh, went away. Do you see my question? It says meritness somewhere in here. I just saw it.
It's about halfway through, James, on the fourth line, on the right-hand side.
And if there is merit to the concern, requires the principal to make appropriate modifications. Who determines the meritness?
Wait, I'm sorry, which one were you referring to? I'm so
It's all
sorry.
good.
First one.
I was-
0450 comprehensive
Okay.
safety plan. And it's down there, in the comprehensive safety plan to the principal, and if there is merit to the concern, requires the principal to make appropriate modifications. Well, who determines the meritness, if that's the word? Like, who determines that it's of merit?
The site principal.
Okay.
Yeah.
There are certain parameters that are required by law when we're doing our comprehensive safety plans. So the things that maybe a principal are going to add in there, this is a perfect example, is if you have a site that has mod severe program, maybe 2 sites are going to add that to their plan, and the principal needs to acknowledge that. And then they're going to create a section for that, but all the other sites may not. So we provide them a template. Mrs. Pichette and her staff spend quite a bit of time with them, walking them through those templates and helping them create the plans specifically for each individual school site. There's 2 different copies of those plans that come out, one that is public record, one that is a confidential record. The confidential record, as an example, talks about in the event that we need to evacuate, let's say we need to remove students off campus. Let's say we had a very extremely unfortunate situation of a school shooter and we bust kids out. We are not going to make that public by law immediately in a document. And so, and that's for the safety of the students, because in the past, when, unfortunately, 20 years ago, when they did that, there was a shooter then sitting at that spot as kids rolled in on the bus. And so that's just kind of one example as to why the principal would be the one to have that merit in that comprehensive safety plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Did anybody have any additional questions? Do you have any more stickies?
I do, but I think we're good.
Okay.
Can we do A, B, C? Like, is it all grouped, or do we go each?
We can do 15, is it 15? Yeah, 15 A, B, and C. 15-2, A, B, and C.
Correct.
I did, sorry, I had just, sorry.
Sure.
I had one more question. On, this is under Ms. Pachette's, also board number 5144, with discipline, that the new law, beginning in this school year, prohibits a school staff member from denying a student's recess unless the student's participation poses an immediate threat to the physical safety of the students or one or more of the student's peers. I mean, not that I think that kids should be like losing out on recess habitually, but does this seem a hair like restrictive or of giving that kind of like autonomy to school staff to be like, hey, this is like a natural consequence?
Well, it's a great opportunity for our staff to engage in structured recess play.
Got it. Okay.
There's opportunity there.
Work around.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify, like, as a former teacher, not that you'd be like just consistently, because most of those kids are the ones that really like need to go play at recess.
Yeah.
But however, anyway, sorry, just a quick question on that.
That was a good question.
Yeah, there's, I can see the conflict that policy might bring to mind.
I move to approve items 15.2, A, B, and C, board policy updates.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Just for clarification, that concludes the roll call vote. And that also concludes our discussion action, oh no, sorry. Approve to recirculate the, No.
You have to go 3.
sorry, School Facilities Grant and Consulting Services Agreement with Hancock Park and DeLong. Mr. Critchfield.
Yes, thank you, President Burns. So we have had a longstanding relationship with Williams and Associates as a school facilities grant consultant. A few highlights from our time with them, probably the biggest one being a few years ago when we secured state funding for 3 special education buildings. There are a lot of details and technicalities that go into securing state funding for facilities grants, and we were able to secure, I think it was nearly $8 million for those grants, and those were the buildings constructed just a couple years ago at Plymouth Elementary, Jackson Junior High, and Argonaut High School. And so there's a multitude of ways that we will utilize this firm. We did not have any issues with Williams and Associates, but the main consultant and owner of the company, principal of the company, Mimi Dean Williams, was recruited heavily by CDE with the Rural Schools Facilities Grant that was passed, and so she is now going to lead that work with CDE. Many of her prior employees have moved to Hancock Park and DeLong, and so this seems like the most seamless way to continue our efforts to secure state facilities grant money, and we ask for your approval of this contract.
I am going to ask the trustees if they have questions, one by one. Mr. Crow?
No.
Mrs. Parker?
No, I don't think so, not for this one.
Mr. Marzano?
The fiscal implication is not to exceed $15,000 annually, so this is going to be a revolving position that,
It's renewable. The contract is renewable.
okay. And we pay them $15,000 a year to find grant money.
Not to exceed. So it would be as we need them and as they're working on projects, we work out the billing for that, and we would not exceed 15,000 annually.
It's not a guaranteed 15,000 a year. It could be less.
Right.
But we cannot.
Not
go
to
above.
exceed.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Mr. Whitaker?
No questions.
Okay. I would like to just make a comment that typically, while this does have a fiscal significance, that generally it is in our favor to spend that little bit of money to get pointed in the direction of the grants that we need to apply for various projects. It definitely is money to the plus side, drastically more than what the fees are.
Absolutely.
So that being said,
Do districts generally have, bigger districts, of course, or maybe even private schools? I mean, is a grant writer something that like they have on their roster?
I mean, some do. The challenge is the grants vary so much in type that this seems to be the more commonality. I mean, Hancock Park and DeLong works with a lot of large districts as well in helping them with facilities grants, because you could have someone who's an expert in Ms. Pichette's world with educational services. They're not going to be of much use when you're trying to secure grants for facilities, because it's just a totally different system and set of rules. And so you have these consultants that specialize in these different areas, and that's why this is so narrow, focused specifically on school facilities grants.
I know that the companies that do the work on school facilities will often partner with consultants like this. So they'll go to the city and they'll say, hey, we can, there's this grant to put a playground in, and we can hook you up with this consultant who can help you with the grant. And then the city is able to get a new playground for much reduced cost. So it's definitely a synergy, like they work together because, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. But we are gonna win that we're gonna win the result of that, partnership for sure. We would not want to be trying to do this on our own because we don't have someone on staff who only, specializes in facilities grants. Although Mr. Critchfield is getting better at it, they keep
added to your plate, Jen.
they keep creating new programs, so.
There's a lot of technicalities that come with a lot of the grants, specifically around facilities pieces. You have to, there's multiple agencies that you have to fully understand and be a part of. There's deadlines and all those things. So it's really what this entity helps us with and has in years past when it was Mimi Dean.
Do we have a consultant for regular grants? You know? I mean,
No, we
a
do
lot of
not.
times, I mean.
We should,
a
but
lot
we
of the
do not.
times- Okay, a lot of times I hear you guys say, and this is grant money, and this is grant money. That's because you guys did the footwork.
Correct.
Most of the time. There was the one community schools grant that you voted on that contract
Yeah.
for that $5.2 million, but most of the time, it's, yeah, we're writing the grants.
I just add a comment to echo what's been said by several of us up here. The efficiency of using a consultant for grant writing would so much more efficient than trying to do it in-house. I've been involved in grant writing, and the time put towards it would far exceed this annual cost, so I think it's a really good idea.
If there are no additional questions, we are ready for a motion.
I move that we approve item 15.3, the school facilities grant and consulting services agreement.
I'll second.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. 15.4, technical studies agreements for the environmental impact report. Mr. Critchfield.
Yes, thank you. We already laid a lot of the groundwork in our previous discussion item, but this lays out the 3 agreements that we put together. Again, to reiterate, this has to do with focused work on further traffic studies and data, mostly requested by Caltrans. We also have eCore Consulting. We will be utilizing them. There are some biological and paleontological studies that need to be done. And so that contract spans over a longer period of time. Some of what the work they will do will be part of the draft EIR. Other portions of the work they do cannot be done until right before construction. And so there's some certain ties in the EIR that says you have to, like, when you're taking down the trees for construction, there has to be observations for birds and bats right before construction. So that can't be done as part of the final EIR. But rare plant surveys, all those other things, even looking for fossils, it's all part of this. Okay, so that's with eCore. And then Dudek is a company we were able to find that does hydrology studies. This came mostly from a request from the city of Jackson, but also the city of Sutter Creek. And so these will be studying water and sewer and the impacts of consolidation. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I am going to move down the line. Mr. Crow?
And it might be in there. I was just wondering, did they give you a timeline, estimated timeline to have these studies back?
So we have estimated timelines, and they vary from 3 to 4 months on most of these. I think the biggest challenge is with Dudek. So in what they're required to do, it depends on how much data is readily available from the cities in the county. And Amador Water Agency. They did some preliminary work to put together the quote, and the city of Jackson and the city of Sutter Creek were very responsive to that. And so, we're relying on those entities for the data, and so it is a little bit dependent on other agencies, so it's hard to pin down an exact timeframe.
And I think, given what's come up in the last 6 months with the water agency and ION, I think it's good to have these studies done that would include that, because that's the lack of water or access to water in ION I think it's gonna impact what we're trying to do here. So I think that's good. And as far as all these studies, I think we have the answers. Once they're done, we'll have all the answers. I know some of the public will feel that there's a waste, but once it's done, we have the answers. We won't have to do it over. We'll know where we're at, know where we stand. And I think this is absolutely necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Mrs. Parker?
I did have a question for A with the agreement with Kittleson. That's our traffic people, right?
Correct.
Okay. So after attending the meeting with ACTC and reading some stuff, it says that I kind of found the letters to be that Caltrans did somewhat request these studies, and then Kittleson, we just didn't do those exact ones that they had requested. And now we have to go back and do this study again. Is this agreement simply to do this specific study that we needed, that we want to do to ensure that this is like a complete traffic study that they had asked, that Caltrans is asking for and requested? And but are we continuing like more consulting services with them or just the study?
Does
that make any sense?
This has to do with responding to Caltrans and their multitude of requests through the draft EIR.
Okay.
And this was specifically much longer after that one that you're referring to. This is completely in addition to, and are things that usually is not asked because they're asking them to use a completely even different system and program.
Okay.
So this is far in addition to that from Caltrans. Whoops, sorry, most recently.
Okay. So this should cover any requests from Caltrans, both previous and what they've responded in the first draft EIR that was circulated, correct?
We have had multiple meetings with Caltrans, and
Okay.
in which Kittleson was part of,
Okay.
to ensure that everything that Caltrans is asking for is laid out in this agreement with Kittleson.
Okay. And then after this, though, we don't have like some sort of continuing consulting contract with Kittleson, correct?
We do not.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, because I'm beef with Kittleson anyway. I think that's it for right this second.
Mr. Marzano?
Bullet point number 2, it says new analysis locations. Can you go over that?
This came out in the draft EIR. And again, with what we did with consolidation, this is comprehensive of all of the potential phases of consolidation. So you'll notice that's focused on Sutter Creek, because in the full consolidation phased out plan, Sutter Creek Primary would move to Sutter Creek Elementary. And so that was not originally included. Caltrans would like us to make that part of that. That came out in the draft EIR.
And the cost of this is $84,224
With Kittleson, correct?
with Kittleson.
Yeah, there's the fiscal implications are lined out for each contract.
And Kittleson is the one that we won't be working with after this. Is that what you said?
Well, again, for this traffic study, it would be complete.
Right. And we won't be consulting with them anymore, right?
I don't anticipate that.
Okay.
A couple things. First of all, on the agreement with Dudek, it has fiscal implications going from $55,000 to $120,000. My question is, why the widespread?
Yeah. So again, that has to do with what data is readily available. If there is data that is lacking, they will have to put more time and effort into getting that data and acquiring it themselves versus having that data from the cities and the water agency. So it's just because they haven't started the study, we bounced around on what to do, and they recommended giving this range, that way it covers us if there's, a lot of data that they have to acquire themselves.
Okay, and just on the E-Corp consulting with the paleontology work, some of which would not have to happen until the project actually moves forward. So hypothetically, if the traffic agreement comes back and the water agreement, water and sewer come back and it's cost prohibitive to do the project, we would not be spending up to the 61,000.
That's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure that's clear. So these are maximums. Okay, that answers my questions.
Thank you for asking about the timing of that. That's a good clarification. Are there any additional questions?
Yeah, so, based on the questions that Mr. Whitaker just asked, bless you, you're looking for all three of these to be approved?
Correct.
Okay. I assumed we were going individually here. Okay.
You can if you want to do that.
No. The only reason I was is because in my head I had certain questions for each one, but Mr. Whitaker helped with the one about the money.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, Kittleson, they want 84,000, E Corp 61.9, which was already explained that that's a
And
max.
Dudek 55 to 120.
55 to 120.
Depending on what you got to look for.
Yeah, so I mean, my mathematicals are like $265,000 more worst case scenario.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think that the additional data is going to give us the basis to approve or not approve the EIR. If there are no additional questions, I would ask for a motion.
I'll go ahead and motion that we approve item 15.4, items A, B, and C to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crow,
Yes.
Mrs. Parker,
I've been conflicted when it comes to this decision because I've been a very vocal critic of the consolidation process thus far, including the studies that were asked for, especially the Caltrans studies, and the request for those studies in the beginning. At this point, I'm personally skeptical of logistically and financially how the project would ever even continue. However, at this point, I feel that it would be an almost bigger disservice to the district students and families if we did not get the fully completed docket of studies and a completed draft EIR that can be circulated to our community and partnering agencies for public comment that is actually what they were asking for and what I feel like needs to be put out there. I personally feel like the topic needs to be put to rest one way or another, both for the future of our district financially, as well as for the morale and the relationship between the district and the community. I would hate to have all of this strife and all of this stuff that has happened over the course of this year and then be like, for what? I don't know. We don't really know. We didn't finish anything. I have no clue. Let's do this again in 3 years or whatever it is. So long story short, I'm going to be a yes to wrap this up, I hope.
Thank you, Mrs. Parker. Mr. Marzano?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. Mr. Marzano, did you want to elaborate on your no vote?
I think I've made my point throughout the meetings.
Agreed. Okay. Final item for discussion and approval is 5, approve to recirculate the DEIR post additional studies. Mr. Critchfield.
Yes, so this is impacted by the item that was just approved by the board because we will now take those studies and put them in the draft EIR. There are requirements that if your draft EIR undergoes significant changes, you have to recirculate. And so what the requirement would be is any sections that have material differences. So these studies won't impact every single section of the draft EIR, and so what would be put out would be any of the sections impacted by this. It will be quite a few sections that are impacted by this, would go out again. That's that same 45-day timeline that we were under the last time the draft EIR went out. So we're asking for your approval. Again, as Mr. Crow asked, what's the timeline here? Again, there's some variables going on. So once the 3 studies are completed, then all of that information goes back to place PlaceWorks, our CEQA consultant, and then they would compile the draft EIR, and then we would go back out for the 45-day public review period.
Do we have like a ballpark estimate of when, like a month even potentially, that we might see this drafted?
Yeah, I'm hoping that the draft EIR can go out in September or October.
Okay. And we already have that contract, so we're not paying extra to do this again? Is
Correct.
that-
PlaceWorks is already under contract to do this part of the work.
Okay.
And as these studies come in, for example, if E Corp comes in quickly, they can start working on the PlaceWorks can start working on that while they're waiting for the other two?
Correct, yeah, as the work comes in.
Are there any additional questions?
I move to approve item 15.5 to recirculate the DEIR post additional studies.
I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker?
Yes.
Mr. Marzano?
I'll say no.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Mr. Marzano, did you want to elaborate?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That concludes our discussion action items, and we are to the board reports. Dr. Gibson?
Let me pull up my sticky note.
While you're pulling that up, I will say that I will miss our students' board reports because I know there's a lot of stuff happening at the end of the school year for the month of December. So,
Yeah, I know Maeve reached out to me. She has her third AP exam tomorrow in a week, so she's a little tired. And Peyton had to do some carpooling for siblings. So they both greatly apologize, but this time of the year for them is pretty brutal when they're taking AP courses and things. So I told them both they had plenty of grace. Not a problem. First thing, just really quickly, I attended the county managers meeting last week. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's where every county agency, every city manager, as well as county leadership and myself get together. We usually meet for lunch. We have about an hour and a half meeting and just talk about all the things that come up for each agency. A lot of times they're talking across about traffic and lots of other things. They wanted some consolidation updates, obviously, and so I just want to thank all of them because it's a great group. Mr. Critchfield and I had the honor today of going to Ione, and we met with the new city manager, Mr. Lee, as well as Chief Alfred, and had a great meeting about some things that we had actually spoke to the chief about when he was the interim city manager last year, and just working on a few projects there that are very much collaborative, of which one of them actually started in 2006. So we appreciate Mr. Lee and Chief Alfred for really kind of circling back on some of those things and really working to, work collaboratively with us. And then last but not least, and this will be the last one for a very long time for me, but I unfortunately will miss the next board meeting. My sister-in-law is getting married, and I will be traveling for that. Unfortunately, she's a teacher, and I'm like, why are you doing this in May? Like, are you crazy? Like, you're a teacher. But that's what she and her fiance chose. So I'm gonna go and be out of town with my family to celebrate her wedding. So, Mr. Critchfield, you're up to bat. Did I miss anything, Kevin? I also very much want to congratulate Dr. Palazuelos. He is formally and officially a member of our cabinet team. We went through the full process. I know I sent out the email, but we had a 22-panel group, and I know there's some people in the room here who sat on that panel with us. We had some really amazing applicants. We had 16 people apply. We ended up interviewing, or 14 people, 16, I don't remember. It was a lot. We interviewed 6, and Dr. Palazuelos came out on top. So we're very excited to have him as a permanent member of our team and kind of complete the full circle. So thank you for your hard work. Anything else? Good? All right, that's it.
okay. So I'm going to start with Mr. Crow.
Wait, can I just say one more quick thing?
Of course.
I'm so sorry. Also coming up, I know that Ms. Martz mentioned on the 23rd, is it the 3rd? Yeah, okay. For CSEA, we also have all of our promotions and graduations coming up, and we're very much excited about that. And of course, I had this on my notes and I didn't scroll down on the sticky note. But again, just a huge, huge thank you to all of our teachers for Teacher Appreciation Week. Without you, it doesn't happen. And I know we're going to celebrate our classified staff in a couple weeks, and it's equal gratitude. It takes every single person to make our system work and work properly, and there isn't any job that's more important than the other. So first of all, thank you to the teachers, and in a couple weeks, we will formally do a huge thank you to all of our classified staff.
Thank you, Dr. Gibson.
Sorry, one more. It was also Principal Appreciation Day. What day was that last week? Thursday? May 1st, thank you. Principal Appreciation Day was last week. I know our principals felt the love, and we had a little celebration for them on Monday at the principals meeting. So again, without them, just working in education, no matter what job you have in today's world, it's an interesting ride for sure. So I just want to give a shout out to our principals as well. And I promise, I think now I'm done.
Well, third time is the charm. Exactly. Mr. Crow.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. Mrs. Parker?
Nothing right now, no.
Okay. Mr. Marzano?
I wrote some things down. I had some time to sit down. Thank you, President Burns. Tonight I want to share some thoughts that have been weighing on my mind. I'm going to be reading my comments as I want to ensure that I am clear about what I'm saying and to respect the time of everybody here tonight. Please know that I am not here to question anyone. I'm here to simply ask questions, and that is the spirit in which I offer these comments. As an Amador County parent, as a volunteer in the district, and especially as a member of the Board of Trustees, I believe that it is important for each and every one of us to uphold the highest standards of integrity and transparency. Our district is in the midst of challenging times with financial pressure, with economic uncertainty, and above all, with the trust of our community hanging in the balance. As trustees and with the superintendent and cabinet members, we are a governance team that is serving as a steward of public funds. Most importantly, we are stewards of the public's trust. I've said trust a couple times now because that is what is at stake now for our community. Trust goes hand in hand with transparency. As a trustee, I want to take a moment to go on record that I have repeatedly requested the current contract of our superintendent, Dr. Gibson. It is unclear to me why a current copy has been distributed to all the trustees at the same time as part of Dr. Gibson's annual evaluation process. I know that we have a process to evaluate and hold accountable our superintendent because this role is critical for the success of our district. However, our ability to follow that process with transparency and integrity is something that I am having trouble understanding. I ask these questions on behalf of a community that has a lot of questions. My statements here tonight are my own. However, I think that being able to get solid answers in transparent and legally compliant way is in the best interest of our entire community. Finally, I reiterate that as a trustee, I'm formally requesting that all members of this board receive a copy of Superintendent Gibson's current contract. Thank you for listening, and again, these are my comments.
Mr. Whitaker?
Would like to know when the scholarship nights are, because those are big nights for the students, and I'm a little concerned that one school chose to have it on the night of a board meeting when we can't be there, and, I'd like to go to support our students that have worked hard and been there, so hopefully in the future, we can get the dates, and when they put their calendars together, maybe tell them this is not a good night, and I realize you're trying to get community there to present the awards and everything, and there's a lot of money involved, and these students have worked real hard and are very deserving, but I would like to also share in their joy and accomplishments.
Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. Kind of to piggyback on that, I would like to request that we get a schedule of the schools that have open houses this month. You heard me say Maycember, and the open house schedule is one of the reasons why I call this Maycember. Every one of our school sites will have some kind of open house, and often there's two on the same night even, because there's only so many nights a week, right? So if Desiree wouldn't mind sharing that schedule with all of the trustees, so that if we are able to pop in, we know when to. Additionally, so we haven't talked about this or had it on the agenda for a long time, but it definitely is still having a large influence on the work that that is being done in the district, and that is the West Ed report, which I don't know if everybody on the board even is familiar with what the West Ed report was, but based on things that we have had presented to us in recent meetings, we feel that we are making progress on many of the objectives and deficiencies that were identified in that report. And so we would, as a board, like to make a request for some data to support our feelings that we are moving in the right direction, specific to special education, the money that I'm not going to say it specifically, but I will email it to you, Dr. Hedegaard, because I know that we have a SELPA meeting coming up, and perhaps this is more appropriate for that meeting in particular. So if I can email you with the kind of data points that we would like to see, so that we can have a touchstone of, you know, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, as we progress on some of those goals that the West Ed report definitely was the impetus for us to create a cohesive strategic plan for the district. And that strategic plan, as we know, goes out many years into the future. And so we are plugging along at that. We would like to report some good news, is what we're hoping for, on that. So also, congratulations to Dr. Palazuelos. And I think also, because some of the problems we have are due to issues that we had in the past in our HR department, I think I'm also going to ask for some data points from HR in terms of vacancies, and are we retaining our new hires, et cetera, things along those lines. Again, thank you to staff for volunteering for the summer duties. We appreciate you, and thank you to this many members of our community who have stayed to the end of this meeting. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your input. That being said, our next meeting is Wednesday, May 22nd, tentatively scheduled to be held at the Amador County Administration Building here. Open session will start at 6:30. We are adjourned. It is 8:46. And we will start the county meeting. Do you want to roll right in? Do you need a break? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to proceed as soon as I can get that agenda open. Okay, so we're going to call to order the Amador County Office of Education meeting. It is 9:47. We do have all board members in attendance. Yeah, 8:47. What, did I say 9? Okay, 8:47, correction. Dr. Gibson, do we have any deletions or corrections to the county agenda?
We just added that communications as well. Communications was already agendized, so we just added the same document. It's just for the county office.
Thank you. For the employee organizations, do we have Mrs. Crow? No. Do we have Ms. Matheson?
No.
No, okay. I don't have any speaker cards for public comment. For the consent agenda, are there any questions on the consent agenda? This one is much more brief. There is a contract for local child care planning grant, workforce pathways development grant, if anybody has questions regarding that. If there are no questions, we are ready for a motion to approve.
Sure, I got the right number. I move to approve item 8, consent agenda.
I'll go ahead and second.
Thank you, gentlemen. For the roll call vote, Mr. Crow?
Yes.
Mrs. Parker has stepped out. Mr. Marzano?
Aye.
Mr. Whitaker?
Yes.
I'm also a yes. So you have a 4-0 vote, Desiree. We do not have any, okay, so for communications, we do not have any discussion items. And for information only, we have the personnel recommendations. Are there any comments or questions regarding the personnel recommendations? No? Okay, are there any additional board reports?
No. Wait, I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. No, I don't.
Are you sure?
Yes, I was joking.
Going once?
No, I'm kidding.
Trustees, do you have any additional comments or reports?
One I forgot, wanted to give a shout out to the, and it might have been at the last school board meeting, to the special education basketball team that won the championship. Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Crow. I do not have any additional reports. We are going to meet again on Wednesday, May 22nd, here at the Amador County Administration Building. Open session will start immediately following the ACUSD meeting, and we are adjourned. It is 8:49. Thank you very much.